From skincare scandals and cabinet purges to billion-dollar cleanups and a minister who ran out of road, today's news is all about lines being crossed, cards being pulled, and reputations finally catching up. My friends, this is Daily Bagel, the only news that you need before the kettle's even boiled. Let's get into it. And kicking us off with current affairs, Cyril Ramaphosa has officially fired Higher Education Minister Nabushle Nkabane, a rare cabinet shakeup with real consequences. So this move comes just 2 days before Parliament votes on the national budget. Now the DA had threatened to block funding for Nkabane's department due to her corruption allegations, putting the entire appropriations bill at risk, which is this final step that officially unlocks the government spending. And so by removing her, Ramaphosa appears to be trying to neutralize that threat and avoid yet another budget crisis. But as expected, the drama isn't over. You see, the DA says that the Human Settlements Minister, who also faces allegations, should be next. And if the DA pulls support, the government could fall short of the majority that it needs to pass this bill, which would force emergency measures that limit what departments can spend. So what's the bigger picture here? You see, this isn't just about one minister. It's about whether this government of national unity can hold and whether Ramaphosa is willing to cut loose ANC allies to keep it together. Because right now, the country's entire budget is being held hostage over who's sitting in which seat. And on to our quick fire mentions. FlySafair and its pilots will reportedly resume wage talks today through the CCMA. Now, as we've seen, this mediation follows a wave of cancellations and disruptions this week as tensions flare up over salaries and scheduling rosters. A coalition of unions and civil rights groups have slammed proposed changes to labor law, warning that it will gut workers' rights. You see, these draft amendments could let small businesses fire staff without formal hearings or cause. And President Ramaphosa has suspended Advocate Andrew Chake, the Director of Public Prosecutions for South Gauteng. He'll face an inquiry into his fitness for office after backlash over withdrawn state capture cases and delays in action. And on to our finance section. If you've ever reached for CeraVe at Dis-Chem and accidentally grabbed something called Dermacare, you're not crazy. You're actually part of the reason that this story exists. So after a year-long fight with the Advertising Regulatory Board, Dis-Chem has finally pulled Nutriwoman's Dermacare range from its shelves because the packaging looked just way too similar to CeraVe. We're talking color palettes, layout, font, basically a skincare doppelganger. And look, we're not talking about some niche brand being copied here. CeraVe is massive, global bestseller, backed by dermatologists, Super Bowl ads. I mean, even I use the cleanser, which says something. So when a local so-called dupe started showing up next to it on South African shelves, looking nearly identical, L'Oreal, which is CeraVe's parent company, went full-on Armageddon mode. So as expected, the regulators sided with L'Oreal. Nutriwoman appealed it, they lost again, but refused to change their packaging. And Dis-Chem kept selling it anyway until photos surfaced this year and the board came knocking. So now the stock is gone, listings are down, and the message is pretty clear. If you take a shot at the king, you best not miss. And next up, the company formerly known as Steinhoff just raised 28 billion rand. Now rebranded as Ibex, the scandal-hit retail giant, which collapsed in 2017 after a €6.5 billion accounting fraud, has sold off its final big asset, a 28% stake in Pepkor, Africa's largest clothing retailer. So as you can expect, this name change wasn't just cosmetic. You see, Ibex exists purely to clean up the wreckage that Steinhoff left behind, settling creditors, avoiding legal landmines, and selling whatever still has value. So this Pepkor sale was a big one. I mean, demand was so high that it cleared in minutes. And for Pepkor shareholders, it's a win. More shares are now in public hands, which means more interest from institutional investors. All in all though, one analyst summed it up. The overhang is gone, which for anything linked to Steinhoff counts as a small miracle. And on to our quick fire mentions. ABSA has placed several employees on leave following an investigation into leaked confidential information. Now, the bank denies any firings but says that disciplinary processes are underway after evidence of serious misconduct was uncovered by ENS Forensics. Home appliance maker DeFi has scored a lifeline after South Africa slapped steep provisional tariffs on top-loader washing machines from China and Thailand. Now, this move follows evidence that those imports were being being sold below market value, undercutting local producers. And Telkom has unveiled a bold new logo and brand identity, part of its wider effort to modernize its image after posting a 62% jump in earnings. The company also resumed dividends after a 4-year break. And onto our sports section. Look, if you've been wondering where Matt Pearce has been this box season, you're not alone. I mean, the veteran commentator who's called over 150 tests, including both of South Africa's recent World Cup wins, has been notably absent from the box. So SuperSport reportedly says it's part of a broader push to deepen their commentary talent across languages. Now, Paul Stubbs led the mic duties for the box opening 4 matches, joined by new names like Layla Arison and Zanae Jordan. But fear not, Pearce will return as the lead commentator for the upcoming Rugby Championship, with Hanyani Shimangi expected beside him. But more broadly though, SuperSport says that it's actively seeking new and diverse talent across the board, from presenters to commentators, as it looks to refresh its on-air lineup. So if you've ever backed yourself as the next Hugh Bladen, now might be your moment. And on to our quickfire mentions. Des van Jaarsveld, the oldest living Springbok, has sadly passed away at the age of 96. He captained South Africa in his only test in 1960 and leaves behind a legacy of leadership, longevity, and love for the game. And Proteas all-rounder Corbin Bosch says that the squad is starting to find its rhythm under coach Conrad. Now, with World Cup spots on the line, every match moving forward is doubling as a live audition. And before we continue, here is something to chew on. How many toll gates do you think there are on South Africa's national road network? Is it A, 42, B, 59, or C, 88? We'll give you the answer at the end of the show. And on to our wildcard section. In 1929, a well-dressed man calling himself a French government official invited 5 of the top scrap metal dealers to a secret meeting at a luxury Paris hotel. Now, his message was urgent. The Eiffel Tower was being dismantled. Maintenance costs were too high and the government wanted it gone. And quietly. And bids were open, but discretion was essential. So one of the dealers took the once-in-a-lifetime offer. He submitted the offer, paid a processing fee, and even handed over a bribe to sweeten the deal. Contracts were signed, the man collected the money, and then he disappeared. So it was a con. The Eiffel Tower was never for sale, and in a move that still baffles many historians, that same con man returned to Paris just weeks later to try it again. So the man's name was Victor Lustig, and he's remembered as one of the greatest con artists of all time. He didn't just sell the Eiffel Tower, he tricked crime boss Al Capone, ran fake money printing scams across 2 continents, and stayed ahead of the law until the FBI finally caught him in 1935. And as for that Bagel Bite, according to the South African National Roads Agency, there are 59 national toll gates in South Africa. And yes, if you live in Gauteng or travel along the N2 in Durban, you would swear there were many more. And my friends, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. I must say, I think it's day 5 of battling through a flu at the moment. So if you guys have any secret remedies, please throw them my way. Hope you guys all have a cracker Wednesday, and I'll catch you all same time tomorrow. Cheers.